H20 Centred Education. Brian, would you like to go first?
Sure, yeah. So as you said, H2O is our acronym for help to ourselves and others, two O's instead of the normal two H's. And what we have found is that very often certain education processes run counter to what the research has told us is helpful to ourselves and others. So we have another acronym we use to contrast helpful education processes with unhelpful education processes, and that acronym is DRY. And that stands for practices that don't reward you and me. And we put you and me together as one word to try to get across the importance of thinking of both ourselves and others, both of the O's in H2O.
The roots of what we do go way, way back to, for example, Paulo Freire and the banking model of education.
Right.
And so the thing that we want to make sure people understand is there is an abundant science of learning, growth, and change that is available to us to optimize the learning experiences of our students, and yet we often don't pay attention to that research literature, and therefore we sort of rely on our instincts or our impulses or our intuitions, many of which just don't facilitate long-term growth, development, learning, and change.
I know that you mentioned in one of your papers the 5 factors that individuals need to implement educational excellence: social support, time perception, enjoyment of the process, accessibility to materials and training, and motivation for desired activities. Really, in looking at that, it sparks a question in me. How far from these principles have we wandered, do you think, Martin?
It's a great question. In fact, there's a sort of a well-published movement in United States psychology called grit, which basically says that people are, in a sense, born with the tenacity to get things done, or they're not. And the truth is, STEAM directly opposes that idea. It says that if those 5 elements you just mentioned, Teresa, are in place, then people will have the motivation to achieve the goals that are aligned with those STEAM elements, and if not, they won't. So instead of saying there's a world of people who are doers and a world of people who are non-doers, the research literature actually suggests that each of us under certain circumstances is a doer, and each of us under other circumstances is a non-doer, and that STEAM is an acronym that guides us about the components that are required for people to achieve their goals.
And isn't, when you think of it in that light, isn't home life, upbringing, these formative years so important, and then entry into the system that is the schooling system?
You're preaching to the choir there, Teresa. We once we uncovered these different factors and kind of noticed, just as Marty said, how important those 5 factors we do and the things that we just want to do but don't do, we started thinking, well, why wouldn't we structure the education system so that we're helping people to boost their STEAM from the very beginning to the very end? And our major aim is to create what we call STEAM experts, so that by the time they get done with high school and college and beyond, they get out into the world with a strong set of STEAM related skills.
So then that synergy between home and school is so important, isn't it, at the outset?
It is. And I also want to mention, Teresa, that one critical element that we have not explored as much as we'd like to is that we need STEAM-centered families. So when parents say to children, you should be a lawyer because lawyers make good money, or you should be a steel worker because everybody in our family is a steel worker, that's not providing a STEAM-centered environment for that child. So instead of dictating what should be the course of action for a child, I mean, sometimes I'm a parent of now 2 grown children, and sometimes you have to dictate, no hand on the hot stove, don't run out in the street. But absent that, what we really want to do is train parents to work with their children to uncover what are the motivating things in that child's life. What is the vision that child is trying to achieve? What's the mission that child is on? And the truth is, at a very young age, children, just like all of us, fashion out a sense, if they're permitted to, of what they'd like to do and what they'd like to be. And we think parenting can go hand in glove with schoolwork when all of us appreciate that each person has a mission in life and each person is evolving into being a particular being, and that we need to honor and facilitate that.
And Teresa, just to piggyback on that, the three systems I mentioned at the opening of the interview, the family system, the education system, and the work system, are all feedback loops. So why is it that family systems aren't as STEAM-centered? Well, it's probably because the parents weren't in a STEAM-centered educational environment. What can we do about that if people don't have a STEAM-centered educational environment? Well, we can train people in the workforce to be more STEAM-centered. So we really are focused on helping people become more STEAM-centered in all three of those systems: family system, education system, and work system, so that those systems can act as STEAM-centered feedback loops for people.